Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into a recent company update from PYC Therapeutics.
Yeah, PYC, they're a biotech focused on precision therapies for genetic diseases.
Right, and their whole mission is creating these disease-modifying drugs, getting right to the root cause of illnesses from single gene mutations.
Addressing some really severe unmet patient needs there.
So this update, it wasn't just numbers, was it? More about the pipeline.
Definitely. Very much a look at where things stand, what's moving, and, what to keep an eye on over the next year or so.
Okay, let's get straight into the results snapshot then. High level, how did things look?
Well, the message was pretty positive. A good year so far for their main assets.
And they mentioned some programs that were maybe lagging before?
Yeah, specifically ADOA and PMS. They said those have sort of hit their stride now, overcoming some earlier operational issues.
Okay. And the lead program, RP11, for the eye disease. Any news there?
Seems like it, yeah. They mentioned a really positive industry reaction to some recent data they presented, generated some buzz.
Interesting. But they also highlighted another program, kidney disease.
That's right, ADPKD. They actually flagged that one as potentially accelerating quite quickly, maybe faster than people realize. Sounds like it's really ticking up speed.
Okay, so pulling that together, what's the main goal for the rest of, say, 2025?
The clear objective is getting their 3 clinical assets, RP11, ADOA, and ADPKD, advanced into mid or late stage studies.
So bigger trials, repeat dosing?
Exactly. Likely across multiple sites, multiple geographies as well.
So it sounds like, despite the tough biotech market overall, which they did acknowledge, the internal view is pretty upbeat, solid progress, ambitious goals.
Yeah, that's the balance they seem to be projecting. Aware of the headwinds, but focused on their execution of these upcoming value inflection points.
All right, let's dive deeper then, starting with their basic strategy. Precision therapies for monogenic diseases. Why is that focus, that single gene target, considered less risky?
Well, it really boils down to probability of success. I mean, if you know the exact genetic culprit, just one faulty gene, your drug has a much clearer mechanism, a clearer target. So statistically, these programs have a way higher chance of actually working in trials compared to, say, more complex diseases.
How much higher?
They quote something like a 5-fold better chance of getting from phase 1 all the way to market approval compared to the industry average.
Wow, 5 times. That's significant.
It really is. It's a core part of their story.
And before they even get to human trials, they do this rigorous lab work with 3D mini organs. What's the point there?
Right. They basically grow tiny versions of the affected organ, like a mini retina or mini kidney, using patient cells.
Okay.
And the goal is to show in the lab that their drug can actually fix the problem at the cellular level, restore the gene expression. They call it demonstrating a quantitative cure preclinically.
So proving it works before risking it in people.
Exactly. Trying to de-risk the clinical stage as much as possible.
And they're picking specific rare diseases, not just any rare disease.
No, they're looking for that intersection of prevalent rare diseases, so enough patients for a real market, think $1 to $10 billion potential, but also diseases with severe unmet need, where there are basically no good treatments available right now.
Makes sense. Now, the technology is RNA therapeutics, specifically for something called haploinsufficiency. Can you break that down?
Yeah, it sounds technical, but the concept is pretty straightforward. You normally have 2 copies of each gene, right? One from each parent.
Right.
In haploinsufficiency, one of those copies is mutated, doesn't work properly. So the other, healthy copy, is trying to do the job, but it can only make about half the protein the body needs.
So not enough protein leads to the disease.
Precisely. And PYC's drugs, these ASOs, they're designed to find the message, the RNA, coming from the good gene copy.
Okay.
And they essentially tell the cell's machinery, hey, make more from this good copy. They boost the production from the healthy gene to try and compensate for the faulty one.
Ah, I see. So you're not editing the bad gene, just making the good one work harder. That's a neat approach.
It is. And it's particularly suited for these types of genetic conditions.
And the big news is they expect multiple human efficacy readouts. Basically, proof it works in people in the next 12 months.
That's what they're guiding towards. And, in biotech, that human efficacy data, that's the real currency. That's what moves the needle.
Absolutely. Okay, let's get into the programs then. RP11, Retinitis Pigmentosa Type 11, good buzz from recent data. What's next?
They're rolling patients from the initial phase 12 study straight into an open label extension, an OLE.
Meaning they just keep getting the drug.
Yep, for another 12 months. The aim is to get a full 24 months of data, see how vision holds up or improves over that longer time frame.
And I heard they're tweaking the dose in this OLE?
They are. Starting now, in June, patients on the lowest dose, 30 micrograms, will be moved up to 120 micrograms.
Why the increase?
Because the safety profile has looked really clean so far. So if it's safe, why not see if a higher dose gives more benefit? These higher doses, 75 and 120 micrograms, are actually what they're thinking about for the pivotal study anyway, assuming safety holds.
Makes sense. And potentially dosing less often, too.
That's something they're exploring, yeah. Dose interval optimization, can they push it out to maybe every 3 or 4 months between injections? That would be a win for patients.
Huge upcoming event. FDA meeting June 6th. What are they looking for there?
It's crucial. They need to get the FDA's thinking on the primary endpoints for a registration trial. Things like, how do you best measure visual improvement? Is low luminance visual acuity okay? What about microperimetry? Both have shown good signs.
And any talk of accelerated approval, getting to market faster.
They definitely brought that up. They feel a disease-modifying drug for a clear genetic target like RP11 fits the bill for pathways the FDA seems increasingly open to, based on recent comments from the leadership there.
So the June 6th meeting is key to understanding if that's realistic.
Exactly, and how that might shape the final trial design. They'll combine that feedback with the OLE data that's coming in showing long-term benefit.
And use that to finalize the phase 3 plan later this year.
That's the plan. They expect to share a synthesis of the FDA meeting outcome probably in July, once they have the official minutes.
When's the next actual data release from the OLE?
Likely Q4 this year. That should include patients hitting 12 months, maybe even some reaching 18 months of exposure.
And they mentioned treating the other eye, the fellow eye, after 12 months.
Yeah, once they have a full year of safety data from continuous dosing in one eye, they plan to offer patients the option to treat the other eye too. Good for the patient and gathers more data.
Okay, shifting gears to ADA, Autosomal Dominant Optic Atrophy. They were quite candid about some early struggles here.
They were, yeah. Mentioned things like starting with just a single site, the main investigator having medical leave, some equipment problems. It slowed down enrollment initially.
But those are resolved now.
That's what they reported. Said those operational hurdles are cleared, and importantly, they've added a second clinical site to help speed things up.
So where does ADOA stand right now?
Dosing for the second cohort is complete, and the safety review is happening very soon. They expect to finish dosing cohort 3 by the end of June.
Which means we get follow-up data when?
Initial 4-week data in July, then the more meaningful 3-month data around September timeframe.
Okay. Formal proof of concept is targeted for next year, but could we see hints sooner? Like with RP11?
That's what they seem to anticipate. Maybe some anecdotal reports or early efficacy signals emerging before the full analysis, similar to how RP11 played out.
And any plans to present this?
Yes, they're aiming for a scientific conference presentation, probably early Q4 this year.
All right, let's hit ADPKD, Autosomal Dominant Polycystic Kidney Disease, the one they called particularly exciting and accelerating. Status update.
Healthy volunteer dosing is done. They're now really close, like within 6 weeks of starting to dose actual ADPKD patients.
And what's driving the excitement now? You mentioned a read-through.
Yes, from Regulus Therapeutics. They just showed data where their drug-reduced total kidney volume, TKV, which is a key measure in ADPKD.
Right, bigger kidneys are bad.
Exactly. And Regulus showed TKV reduction within just 3 months of repeat dosing. The crucial part is, Regulus's drug target, microRNA 17, acts on the same gene region, the PKD1 transcript, that PYC's drug targets.
Ah, so biological proximity suggests PYC might also see quick TKV changes.
That's the inference, yes. It gives them confidence they might see movement on that TKV endpoint relatively quickly, too, possibly an accelerated timeline compared to what was previously thought.
So when might we see PYC's TKV data then?
Patient repeat dosing starts in Q4. So following that Regulus pattern, they're thinking TKV data could emerge in Q4 this year or maybe Q1 next year, especially from the higher dose groups.
Now, Regulus was recently acquired, or their asset was, by Novartis, big pharma validation.
Right. Novartis paid about $1.25 billion for the Regulus asset. PYC noted it was considered more of a tuck-in acquisition for Novartis, meaning sort of smaller scale for them.
And PYC sees itself as competitive, even differentiated versus Regulus. How?
They highlighted several points from their preclinical work. Better biodistribution in animals. Their drug got into the kidney tissue more effectively, more evenly, reaching key cyst areas.
Okay.
It also performed better in their 3D kidney cyst models in the lab. And they believe their direct targeting of the PKD1 message might have less potential for off-target effects compared to Regulus's broader microRNA approach.
So the hope is better preclinical profile translates to better clinical data, maybe bigger TQC impact or better durability.
That seems to be the thesis. They think they have a shot at differentiation.
What were the limitations of that 3-month Regulus data, though?
It was only 3 months. Doesn't tell you if the TKV benefit lasts, say, 12 or 24 months. And critically, it didn't show any change yet in eGFR.
Which is actual kidney function.
Right. Estimated glomerular filtration rate. That's the ultimate registration endpoint regulators want to see improve to show real clinical benefit.
And why is that longer-term data and eGFR so important in ADPKD?
Because the existing approved drug, tolvaptan, it showed some TKV benefit, but ultimately only delayed dialysis or transplant by less than 18 months on average.
Not a huge impact long-term?
Exactly. It shows just shrinking the kidney a bit isn't the whole story. You need to show you're preserving function, impacting eGFR decline over the long haul. The 3-month Regulus data just doesn't answer that yet. PYC's data coming later this year and next year will start building that more mature picture.
How do they even know the drug gets into the kidney if they can't biopsy patients?
And mostly inferred from animal models. They do biopsies in mice and non-human primates to measure drug levels in the kidney tissue. Then they look at drug levels in human blood and urine and sort of triangulate, using the animal data to estimate human kidney exposure. It's indirect, but standard.
And they still expect to need a full, separate, pivotal trial for approval.
Yes, that's the current thinking. A standalone registration study, likely with an internal control group, not just relying on extension data.
Okay, last program. PMS, Phelan-McDermid Syndrome. Also hit its stride, key milestone coming up.
Big one. A program go-no-go decision is slated for Q3 this year.
How are they testing this one preclinically?
Using human neurons derived from patient skin samples. They basically grow mini brains, or brain cells, in a dish.
Wow.
And they test if their drug can boost the SHANK3 gene, that's the gene missing a functional copy, in PMS, in those specific patient-derived neurons.
They also mentioned a change in the drug chemistry for this one, different from the eye or kidney drugs.
Yes, it relates to getting the drug into the brain effectively. Their previous approach, using cell-penetrating peptides, led to too much drug accumulating in the spinal cord. So they developed new chemistry, using receptor-targeting ligands, designed to improve uptake directly into neurons.
Okay. And there's another important read-through here from Stoke Therapeutics.
Very important, yes. Stoke has an ASO for Dravet syndrome, another neurodevelopmental disorder. Stoke's drug has shown positive clinical data. It's moving into phase 3.
And the relevance for PYC.
Stoke's drug uses the same backbone chemistry as PYC's new PMS drug. It's a similar length, same delivery route into the brain, targets the same cell type neurons, and aims to improve similar outcomes like language and cognition, which are key issues in PMS.
So if Stoke's validated approach works,
it builds a lot of confidence in PYC's approach. PYC plans to release preclinical data in Q3, directly comparing their molecule's performance metrics to Stoke's, aiming to leverage that similarity.
Got it. So zooming out, success in any one of these isn't just about that disease. It validates the whole platform technology.
Absolutely. Every clinical success, especially showing delivery, works outside the liver, like to the eye, the kidney, the brain. It builds confidence in their core ability to design and deliver these RNA drugs.
So RP11 and ADOA success validates eye delivery.
Right. 2 drugs improving vision via eye injection with good safety. That could establish a unique platform for controlling gene expression in the retina.
Potentially opening doors to much bigger eye diseases.
That's the idea. They're already exploring using the underlying OPA1 targeting approach, which affects mitochondria, in huge markets like glaucoma and geographic atrophy. They have collaborations looking at this in patient models now.
And ADPKD success validates kidney delivery.
Yep. Strong TKV data would prove effective kidney biodistribution, potentially opening up other renal diseases.
And the CNS work for PMS, those new ligands.
If the primate data in Q3 confirms what they saw in rats' better neuronal uptake, that validates a potentially powerful enabling technology for targeted CNS delivery. That could unlock approaches for many other high-value brain disorders.
Okay, let's talk business development, financials. They seem comfortable holding on to these assets for a while, not rushing to partner.
That's their stated approach. Because they believe in the higher success probability of these monogenic targets, they feel holding through key data readouts allows them to capture more value internally.
Which gives them better leverage in deal talks later.
Exactly. Wait for the big value inflection points, then partner from a position of strength to get better terms. It also gives them optionality.
Optionality how?
Well, if they out-license just one asset after positive data, that could bring in significant non-dilutive cash money without selling stock to fund the rest of the pipeline. Huge strategic flexibility, especially if market conditions remain tough.
Any hints on which program might be partnered first?
They specifically mentioned RP11 as the most likely candidate, often bundled with ADOA in discussions, given they're both eye programs.
Are these talks happening now?
They said discussions with key players have been ongoing for years, including for the PKD program, and they plan to continue these, mentioning upcoming U.S. travel for the Bio conference in June.
Could they actually take RP11 to market themselves? Is that feasible?
They think so. Financially, they estimated maybe $60 million for a registrational study. Technically, they feel RP11 is one of the easier rare diseases to launch due to concentrated patient registries.
But that's not the preferred path.
Doesn't sound like it. The appetite seems to be using capital to advance the whole pipeline, especially pushing into those potentially larger indications.
What about pricing? Relying on high orphan drug prices?
They argued no. Said the value is justified by the immense cost of care for these severe lifelong conditions, not dependent on orphan status per se. They also feel rare diseases have been somewhat shielded from recent pricing pressures.
They did mention low stock liquidity on the ASX as a challenge.
Yeah, acknowledge that can be an issue for investors wanting to trade in size.
And any impact from FDA leadership changes.
They haven't perceived any yet in their interactions, but said they'll have a better sense after that June 6th meeting.
Okay, let's wrap up the main points. Sounds like really significant progress across the board, getting past some earlier issues, and now heading into a period packed with key data readouts, Q3, Q4 this year, Q1 next.
Yeah, it feels like a critical execution phase, translating that preclinical promise and platform potential into solid human data.
And we have that platform validation angle, potentially opening bigger markets, plus the strategic flexibility from potential partnerships, providing non-dilutive funding.
Right. They painted a picture of a company poised to have potentially 3 mid to late stage assets, all generating significant data within about the next 12 months. A very exciting time, as they put it.
Okay, time for our not financial advice segment. Remember, everyone, this is absolutely not financial advice, just a thought experiment based on the update.
A hypothetical scenario.
So here's an outrageous but maybe plausible idea for you. Look at the ADPKD program. PYC spent time highlighting preclinical differentiation versus Regulus better biodistribution performance in models. Novartis paid $1.25 billion for the Regulus asset based on just 3-month TKV data, before showing any long-term TKV durability or, crucially, any EGFR impact.
Right, the key functional endpoint.
So the hypothetical trade idea, could PYC's upcoming ADPKD data in Q4, Q1, if it shows similarly good or even better TKV results, and potentially offers a clearer path or early hints towards impacting EGFR,
be valued significantly higher by the market or potential partners than the Regulus deal suggests?
Exactly. Maybe the current low liquidity on the ASX means this potential, or the value of the whole platform being validated by other successes isn't fully baked into the price yet. Could there be an opportunity there, assuming you accept the inherent risks of biotech and clinical trials?
Definitely food for thought as we wait for that data.
And building on that, here's a final provocative thought for you to consider. PYC's strategy involves holding risk, waiting for these big value jumps before partnering. How might the market reevaluate this company if just one of these key upcoming clinical readouts, RP11, ADOA, or ADPKD, truly knocks it out of the park?
Meaning demonstrates clear superiority or a significantly faster path to approval compared to anything else out there.
Right. What would the ripple effect of just one major win be?
It's a good question to ponder. The potential impact could be substantial.